Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this St. Anne virtual town hall meeting in which we're going to learn more about and be able to offer feedback regarding the Renew My Church process in which our parish is participating. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome and introduce Judy Wahadlo, and she will lead us in an opening prayer, the Renew My Church prayer, which is being shared on your screen.
So please join me as we say, Lord Jesus, you speak to us today as you spoke to holy men and women who have gone before us. In every age and in our own time, you call to us and say, renew my church. Pour out the gift of your Holy Spirit upon us and so enable us to hear you clearly, to listen to each other attentively, to imagine our future boldly, to discern your direction wisely, to persevere in your holy will courageously, to surrender our own plans readily, to embrace the greater good, to hand on your gifts to future generations. We remain in the holy company of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the apostles, and all the saints. May their example and presence inspire us with patient confidence in the work of your grace. We ask this of you who live and reign with the Father in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Once again, good evening. I'm Dan Podgorski, and I'm part of the St. Anne Grouping Feedback and Discernment team, which was selected by Father Mark. I'd like to introduce the other members of the team. They are Jennifer Gray, Lena Martinez, Janice Summarize, and Judy Wahadlo. Together with Father Mark, we're participating in regular virtual meetings with the Grouping Feedback and Discernment team members at the other parishes in our grouping and with the Archdiocesan personnel. As you all know, in recent weeks, St. Anne parishioners have been introduced to the Renew My Church process. And while the Renew My Church message stresses ways to provide a sustainable, vibrant, and vital Catholic presence, it's important to note that the Archdiocese has decided the best way to achieve this presence is by consolidation of the parishes in our grouping. And this is due to the rapid decline of finances and attendance at masses throughout the Chicago Archdiocese. So it's important as we start this meeting tonight that we remember these two things. Consolidation is coming to our parish, but we are not alone. This process is ongoing throughout the Archdiocese. The purpose of tonight's town hall meeting is to further educate and make everyone aware of the Renew My Church process and to present the scenarios or versions of consolidation being proposed. We will take questions and feedback at the end of the presentation, but you can also type in your questions in the chat box located on your Zoom screen throughout the meeting, and we'll get to it at the end. So we are now going to start the presentation, and I'll have Lena share with us some of the slides we have prepared. Okay, so the process overview. The renewal requires us to do envisioning, planning, and new means to bring Jesus Christ to others. There are nearly 100 groupings of parishes and schools across the Archdiocese engaging in this process to address necessary questions of structure, how to work together across communities within each grouping, and to establish a strong foundation for vitality through focused evangelization and faith formation efforts. Go back one more. There we go. Supporting our parishes with the best structures enables us to breathe renewed life into our efforts to make disciples, build communities, and inspire witness. So what I'd like you to remember from this screen is that the second sentence there are nearly 100 groupings of parishes and schools across the Archdiocese engaging in this process. So we are not alone. We're not being St. Anne's or The other 7 parishes we're grouped with, we're not being singled out. This is a process that the entire Chicago Archdiocese is going through. Okay, if we can advance. All right, so the initial scenarios. To initiate discussion, the Archdiocese has offered a set of initial scenarios that show potential models of how our parishes and schools could be configured in the future. These initial scenarios have been developed using accounting for data such as demographics, mass attendance, financial and facility conditions. We're going to be reviewing some of these statistics throughout the presentation tonight, so we will be coming back to some of those demographics and attendance figures and financial figures that we just referred to. The scenarios reflect input from our diocese staff, vicariate leaders, and local pastors. These initial scenarios, which we have shared with you by handout, by mail, and electronically, which we will discuss tonight, they're conversation starters only. No decisions have been made. But I do want to stress that decisions are coming and our feedback is necessary. So the grouping, feedback, and discernment team, they may also propose additional scenarios that they believe merit discussion as long as they would be viable. So you're going to see 8 proposed scenarios later tonight, and this is the feedback that we're looking for, is which of these scenarios and groupings of the parishes within our overall grouping makes the most sense for us. Okay, we can advance. So we're going to talk a little bit here about ministerial and spiritual needs of the parish, and this is where you're going to start. You're going to start getting some benchmarks for how the groupings will be judged. So if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, you might want to get it out. Just be ready to jot down some of these benchmarks that are coming up, because you'll see why we're giving them to you now, and we'll use them later when you see the groupings. So to enliven the work of evangelization, formation, worship, and pastoral care in today's time and culture, parishes ordinarily will build a strong staff team to support the pastor. Staff teams will be professionally trained and paid. To support the staffing and basic operations, such as paying utilities, parishes generally will need operating revenue of $750,000 or more. So that's a benchmark that I'd like you to remember and be able to recall as we move throughout the year. Okay, so this is your first look. If you haven't seen the parishes we're grouped with before, this is the Southeast suburban grouping. You can see we're grouped with St. Agnes Parish and School in Chicago Heights. There you see St. Anne's. There's also St. Irenaeus Parish in Park Forest, St. James Parish in Sauk Village, St. John's in Glenwood, St. Kieran also in Chicago Heights, St. Lawrence O'Toole in Matheson, and St. Paul's, which is also in Chicago Heights. So those are the 8 that are, each of these parishes has a grouping, feedback, and discernment team, and we're having virtual meetings with these folks and staff from the Archdiocese on a regular basis, Zoom meetings just like this. So, we can advance to the next one. So again, here's another benchmark that you'll want to be able to recall as we look at the scenarios later on: parishioner count, mass attendance. So based on the number of pastors expected to be available across the Archdiocese in the future, a minimum of 800 parishioners attending weekend mass is generally needed to be assigned a full-time resident pastor. In addition, parishes need enough people power, that is, parishioner count, to support vibrant ministries. So the table and the graph that you have there shows weekend mass attendance at St. Anne Parish for the last 20 years. So starting at the far left, in 1999, our weekend mass attendance was 2,230 people. And you can see it's had a gradual downward slide in the last 20 years. And last year, in 2019, our average weekend mass attendance was 655. So about 71% lower than in 1999 and 31% lower than in 2009. And then you see the breakdown there, the average attendance by mass for the 4 o'clock, the 8:30, and the 10:30. So remember, $750,000 annually and 800 parishioners weekly. Those are the benchmarks that the Archdiocese is looking at as we consider these groupings. Okay, we move to the next. Okay, here's some more information about finances. We have a parish financial stability and facilities. Our parish financial stability and adequate, accessible, safe facilities with capacity for growth and affordable ongoing repair and maintenance. So for St. Anne's, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019, our collections were $617,622. And you can see right away that that is below the $750,000 benchmark. Sunday collections currently are averaging about 75% of pre-COVID totals. Some other figures here, we have $104,752 on deposit with the Archdiocesan Bank as of the end of February 2020. And at that time, you can see that we have accumulating debt. We have unpaid operating bills of almost $580,000 for the church, and the school has an additional $387,000 of unpaid operational bills. So a lot of figures there. Again, the one I want you to focus on is our collections of $617,000 being below the $750,000 benchmark. Okay, we can go to the next one. So here are some benchmarks also for schools. I believe there's only 2 schools in the grouping. St. Anne's, obviously, and then St. Agnes in Chicago Heights also has a school. So the benchmark for schools says a key measure is the potential to enroll a minimum of 240 students in pre-K through 8, considering the area demographics and parish student population. So kind of in reverse order, starting at that bottom bullet point, you can see in 2009, 2010, our enrollment was around 290. Moving up 1 bullet point by 2014 and 15, our enrollment was trending down to 191 students. Last year, our enrollment was 131, and our enrollment this year is at 127. So we certainly have the potential and the capacity to house 240 students. The capacity is not an issue. It's the number of students that we have. So we're not exactly sure how the Archdiocese is considering the schools in these groupings. As of right now, most of the focus in our Monday virtual meetings has been on how the parishes will be reconfigured, and there hasn't been a lot of discussion about the schools. But as you can see, and again, I'll overuse the word benchmark one more time, we're below what's expected annually in collections. We're below what's expected weekly in attendance at weekend mass, and we're below where the school is expected to be. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. All right, so we're getting ready to start looking at some of the grouping scenarios, and we all have to understand the difference between what the Archdiocese is describing as a parish and what's a church. So the parish is considered the overall big picture, not just the buildings, but the people, the community, its organization, the parish of St. Anne, thinking about it in broad terms more than just the building. The church is considered just a building, the sacred space in which we worship. So as these grouping scenarios are discussed, we'll see the difference in the two. So a united parish has one pastor, one budget, one staff, one finance council, but it may have multiple churches. The assets of each parish, uniting as one parish, become the assets of the united parish. The parish may take the form of a new parish with a new name, or in particular example, Parish B becoming part of Parish A. In either case, the church buildings retain their names, so Church B would still be Church B even if it becomes part of Parish A. So let's just get rid of the A's and the B's. Let's just say we were consolidated with St. John in Glenwood. This is just an example. And let's say they made St. Anne the United Parish name, but still allowed masses to be held at the church called St. John. The people who attended Mass at St. John would actually be attending the St. Anne Parish, but they would be attending one of the churches in the parish, which would still be at St. John. So there's all these scenarios encompass, they all contemplate scenarios where a parish has one or more sites that people can worship. If you are grouped or consolidated with one or more parishes, doesn't mean that everyone is all going to one church on Sunday. There could be more than one church that's open. And then when a parish would have two churches or more, one of the churches would be designated as the parish church, where the sacramental records would be kept, and the other church would be a worship site. I'm hoping that's fairly clear as we get ready to move into the groupings here. Okay, so the initial parish scenarios for discernment, and again, this is kind of piggybacks on what we just said here in the last slide. Please note that each parish scenario has a number of associated church configuration scenarios, which will be discussed throughout the rest of the process. Unless otherwise noted, for each united parish, the possibilities range from all churches of the parish being used for Sunday masses to only one church being used to host all the Sunday masses. So again, these are, and you'll see as we get into the slides. So again, so we're going to start now. Look at the scenarios. Keep your benchmarks close to you, because you'll start to see where they become relevant. So the first parish scenario, it's number 1. This is the all-encompassing scenario where all 8 of those parishes in our grouping get merged into one parish with 3 to 4 Sunday worship centers. So what you're going to see here in the bold black there, you'll see Parish 1. All 8 parishes form one new parish. In parentheses, if all 8 of those parishes were combined, it would be an average weekend attendance of 5,252 people and an average yearly income of $3.45 million. And 3 or 4 church sites would be used for the parish's regular schedule of Sunday masses to cover the broad geographic area of that grouping. So that is the sort of the kickoff. Lena is now sharing. So you're going to see this screen multiple times now here in the next few minutes. So again, scenario 1 contemplates one parish for the entire grouping. You're looking at, you should see 8 aqua blue little circles there, and they represent the parishes in the grouping. So going from left to right and top to bottom, you have St. Lawrence O'Toole out there in Matheson, St. Irenaeus in Park Forest, and then going up in that second row, you have St. Kieran in Chicago Heights, St. Agnes in Chicago Heights, and St. Paul. A little bit further to your right and going a little bit further north is St. John in Glenwood. And then over on the far right at the top is St. Anne's. And in the bottom right is St. James in South Village. So obviously a large geographical area. And that's why they said in the first scenario, 3 or 4 of those sites would remain open as worship sites on Sundays. All right, so that's the first scenario. Let's go to the second. Sorry, we're letting somebody else in. We'll be with you in just a second. Remember, we are going to answer questions at the end, and you can also enter your questions in the chat box, wherever it's located on your screen. Okay, so in the second scenario, the 8 parishes we have in the grouping are contemplated being consolidated into 3. First parish includes St. Irenaeus in Park Forest, St. James in Sauk Village, and St. Lawrence O'Toole and Matheson. You see that's 1,149 average weekend mass attendees and $1.17 million in revenue. Parish 2 considers grouping St. Anne's with St. John, 988 weekend attendees, $840,000 in revenue. And Parish 3 would be St. Agnes, St. Kieran, and St. Paul, the 3 Chicago Heights parishes, with an average weekend attendance of 3,115 and $1.44 million. So those would be the 3, and now Lena will share with you how that looks on the map. The map is going to stay the same, and obviously the aqua blue circles are going to remain in the same places, but you'll see in the white boxes we have the groupings. So I believe all those benchmarks were, all those numbers were in excess of the benchmarks. The St. Anne, St. John numbers were low and just barely exceeding the $750,000 annual recommended level of revenue. Okay, so we'll go to the third scenario, and again, this one contemplates 3 parishes. This one, Parish 1, is the 3 Chicago Heights parishes of Agnes, Kieran, and Paul, and they're joined by St. John and Glenwood. This one contemplates our parish joining St. James, which is in Sauk Village, and then Irenaeus in Park Forest and Lawrence O'Toole in Matheson are combined. So you see, for example, it should say Parish 3, but at the bottom, St. Irenaeus and St. Lawrence O'Toole, they're at only 704 attendees on a weekend mass, so that's below the target figure of 800, and that pairing is right at just barely above the benchmark of $750,000. And then you can see the map, which has those groupings. Really have to thank Lena Martinez for putting this deck of slides together. She's the one that did all this work. She did a great job putting those aqua blue circles where all the got to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so the fourth scenario, again, 3 parishes. This one contemplates St. Anne being paired with St. James in Sauk Village and St. John in Glenwood. And this one combines 2 of the Chicago Heights parishes, Agnes and Kieran, with St. Irenaeus out of Park Forest and St. Lawrence O'Toole out of Matheson. And this one contemplates St. Paul in the Heights being by itself. So what's interesting here is that St. Paul has, you see what a large attendance they have, over 2,100 people attending an average weekend set of masses. However, this is almost, you wouldn't believe it, I guess, if you didn't see it. They have the largest numbers, but they have the largest numbers in attendance, but some of the lowest contributions. Financially, they would only be at $560,000. So while they would be way over the benchmark in numbers for attendance, they would be below where they should be in finances. You see, with us getting paired with St. James and St. John, the numbers start to look really good for that pairing. 1,433 people attending Mass and a healthy $1.24 million in revenue. So take a look at that map. Which one? One of the things that Jen just mentioned is that St. Paul only can seat 300 people in their church. So how many masses do they have?
7.
They have 7. So they have 7 masses per weekend. So it's an interesting scenario where they're by themselves. Yeah. Okay, so that is that's scenario 4. Let's go to 5. And this one, so this one keeps the two furthest parishes to the west together, Irenaeus in Park Forest and St. Lawrence O'Toole in Matheson together. Now they would be below the benchmark in attendance and just barely hitting the benchmark for revenue. The 3 Chicago Heights parishes together, Agnes, Kieran, and Paul, solid over 3,000 people attending, and now you add the other 2 Chicago Heights parishes, and now it brings them up to $1.44 million. And then again, in this scenario, we are paired with St. James and St. John, and those numbers again healthy, 1,400, just like the last one, 1,433 people attending and $1.24 million in annual revenue. I can tell you, well, I guess we should wait till the end for that. You can see how this one looks on your screen.
Makes sense.
So,
I think Amir just asked the question if those were pre or post COVID numbers. Those are last year's figures from last year's 2019 October count. So the numbers of attending parishioners that you see are from a year ago. I believe the statistic that we got for now with during COVID, I don't remember what he said. We're at right now we're at less than 50% of our capacity, which is 88 people per mass.
So
Significantly lower.
yeah. So from a numbers standpoint, we're looking at pre-COVID numbers here, 2019, which yeah,
Right.
which makes sense. Okay, so let's go to scenario 6. Okay, again, 3 parishes being considered here. This one brings the large parish of St. Paul in the Heights and brings them west with Irenaeus in Park Forest and O'Toole and Matheson. You see the numbers there bump up to 2,800. But again, they're not much over the benchmark of 750,000. They're only at 1.05 million with those 3. And then grouping, so that leaves the other 2 Chicago Heights parishes together, Agnes and Kieran. And again, you see they would fall below the benchmark at only $730,000 there. And then we're together with St. James and St. John. Again, you've seen those numbers before, 1,433 people approximately and $1.24 million in annual revenue. So you can take a look at that. Okay. All right, and that takes us to, yeah, I guess that is those are the 6 scenarios being proposed so far officially by the Archdiocese. There were a couple of other scenarios proposed in our last grouping and discernment team meeting, but they haven't been officially, I guess, accepted or proposed by the Archdiocese. So from a feedback standpoint, these are the 6 that we are being asked to provide feedback on. So I should have read this earlier, but the questions, the feedback that we're being asked to provide is which scenario best addresses the particular needs of this grouping and why. So for example, which one makes the most geographic sense? Which one addresses demographic and cultural needs or considers the socioeconomic factors? On the opposite hand, which scenario least addresses the particular needs of this grouping and why? For example, things such as difficulty traveling between sites or neglecting the financial needs of the community. And then also, what do you consider the biggest potential challenge facing the implementation of these scenarios? For example, unrealistic demands on clergy or differences in the parish community. So I guess there's one more thing, and then we can open it up for questions. From a feedback standpoint, there is a link online that you can go to, and you can complete the survey online. Jen will give you that link here in just a minute. We're also going to have these town hall meetings this coming weekend at St. Anne's. After all three masses, we will have an in-person town hall meeting that you can attend if you're coming to mass, so you can sit in and listen to us try to get through this again. And you can also turn in a survey form at the mass this weekend. We need it by this weekend, because Monday night we have our next grouping and discernment team meeting with the other 7 parishes, and we are expected to provide feedback from our parish, and that is when each parish is going to nominate one person to form a writing team, and that's when the process will start to take shape, and they'll start to zero in on what might be recommended to the cardinal. What we've been told from the get-go is that none of the recommendations from the grouping, feedback, and discernment teams are final. All final decisions are made by the cardinal, likely, which would be sometime, I think, after the first of the year. So that is basically what we have for a presentation. We can go, actually, Jen, do you want to share the link?
Well,
go ahead, Lena.
Chat question.
Oh, absolutely.
My son's privately student.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys could hear me. I'm using their volume, so we don't have any reverb. Could you hear me okay?
I can
Okay, why don't you?
I can take it over here. Oh, you want me to mute?
On mute. Okay, so there was a couple of questions here. Oh, your volume's up. Okay. So there was a couple of questions in the chat that were sent privately. The first one is, if this group proposes other scenarios, will the parish be made aware of these? I see that the Zoom presentation is being recorded. Will it be accessible for future viewing by the parish? And what is the attributes to the significant drop in attendance over the last 20 years? 2,200 families to 650 is a large drop. Anybody wanna? So the first one is, so just like Dan had said, if there's any other proposals for scenarios, just get it to us by this weekend, so we could take it over to the meeting that we have on Monday. And yes, we are recording this video, so we plan on posting it through the parish website. And the last one, I think, is the million-dollar question, is why there's lots of different factors going into just the overall decline. Just faith in general, it's not only the decline here, but it's the decline across the archdiocese. And we could probably hold a whole 2-hour discussion on why there's been such a drop. Another one that was sent privately to me was, out of curiosity, has there ever been any consideration to having Spanish masses at St. Anne's? I know many families in the surrounding areas that go all the way to Our Lady of Guadalupe for Mass. That would probably be a question that Father Mark would have to answer.
Yes, there is a consideration that it is going to be done. That's why there was a Hispanic ministry that was started actually a year ago. The Hispanic ministry was started, but it didn't continue for a long time. But otherwise, there is a consideration. Yes, Spanish Mass will come, and Hispanic ministries on the way. Yes.
Okay, my vision isn't so great. Okay, so we had a question about the school. So does that mean an enrollment under 240 would mean a school closure? I don't think that would be the only factor. We obviously haven't had 240 kids in a couple years. Right now, our hands are tied because of the COVID restrictions and the social distancing. That statistic that we gave, that I think our enrollment right now is 127 kids. We have many on a waiting list, but we can't get them into the building because we have to keep everyone separated so far in the classroom. So we would be significantly higher than we are right now, but also not to the 240. Mrs. Summarize wants to say something.
Okay, so here we go. Okay. So it appears that this year we have had a strong interest in the school. As Jen said, because of COVID, we have seating restrictions. However, we have just got a new mandate per se from the Archdiocese of Chicago, telling us how to manage as much space as we can that we have. So we're going to try to reconfigure some of our classrooms to see if we can get some more of the students in. But again, we are trying to get our enrollment up. We did meet the budget goal that we were assigned this year for our enrollment, but we would always like to have more children than what we have.
Again, about the 240, it like Jen just mentioned, it is not like a magic number, but there are many other factors. So the next question would be, suppose we come to the time of decision and we are not 240, are we going to close? No, actually it doesn't mean that we can close if other factors can be fulfilled. So we can be 130 or 140 and remain open by the time the decision comes in January also. So 240 is the number that we should aspire to, but it is not like a deadline that if you don't, then you have to go, no.
Okay, so next question was, okay, the slide says a United Parish has one pastor. Is Renew My Church not considering having associate pastors, considering the decline in the number of priests in the Archdiocese? So I think what they were referring to when they said that the United Parish would have one pastor would mean one set of administration, and Father Mark can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So that doesn't mean there wouldn't be an associate, it's just that there would be one governing office over the many worship sites of the United Parish. Does that make sense?
Yes, that is correct. Because if you look at Calumet city parishes, those in Calumet, there are like 4 priests down there. So they can be more than one priest. Only the administration, as Jen has just mentioned, is in one place, one church building. But they can also, the other priests can be in those other sites, or they can always be in one place, but taking over the other worship sites. So they can be more than one priest. True.
Okay, and so actually continuing along with that, the mention of the decline in the number of priests in the Archdiocese. One of the pastors of another one of the churches that's in our grouping is actually on the priest placement board. And what he told us was that we're going to actually have kind of a unique situation when the whole thing happens, because so many of the churches are condensing down and uniting together, that we're actually going to have a little bit of a priest surplus for a minute. Because if you think of it, you know, if say 8 of our parishes are becoming 3, then that, you know, if it was just simple math and people weren't retiring and moving on, then that would mean we would have 5 extra priests. And since this is happening all over the Archdiocese, that's going to be a situation that we're seeing elsewhere as well. So this is another question that we had that someone had submitted on their survey, was who will the priest be when this all comes to fruition? Who will be in charge? Who will our pastors be? And what we were told was it'll be just like when Father Bill left and Father Mark came, when we had to do a search for a new pastor. Everyone will apply. Anyone who is interested in staying with any of the new formations can throw their hat into the ring just like anyone else can. So, you know, chances are that some of our current pastors will stay with the configurations and some may move on. One, I believe, is retiring. There are different scenarios for everybody. So that is all up in the air right now. I hope that answered that question.
There's a couple of other questions. One is, do we take suggestions to the Archdiocese or just the other parish groups? So there are members of the Archdiocese on the virtual Zoom calls with the other 7 parishes that we meet with. So if there is another suggestion, it'll be conveyed not just to the other parishes, but there will be Archdiocesan staff on that call, and they'll be aware of it as well. There's also a question about what other factors besides the number of students are looked at in regards to the school, and also do these parishes bring their debt with them to these new groups, or is it forgiven? And I believe it was explained to us that the assets of the individual parishes move forward, and they are merged into the new grouping or the new parish, but debt does not. The debt does not go forward.
What they explained to us was any property that would be sold off. So say 3 parishes are merging together and they're going to sell one of the churches, the sale of that property then would be used to offset the combined debt. And I think that was it.
But a debt from one particular parish does not encumber a new parish configuration. And in regards to other factors that they might be looking at as far as schools, I think it's, you know, the ability to increase the enrollment. I think all of us have seen that, you know, there's an increase in the number of Hispanic families moving into the area, and I think many of us feel that offers an opportunity for an increase in students, and I think that's also an important factor in why there should be Spanish masses at all of our parishes. And I think geographically, I think the Archdiocese looks at, you know, where their schools are at. Obviously, we've been below 240 for a while, so clearly that's not a you know, jumping off the top of the mountain figure, but we are being scrutinized more heavily each year. We are clearly under the gun at St. Anne's with our school, and we do need to either demonstrate an increase in enrollment, or we have to do some serious fundraising to offset the operational expenses that we're generating in excess of revenues.
There was one question: how will consolidation help our financial situation?
So one of the questions is, how does consolidation help the financial situation? You know, you're basically going down to just one staff, one parish staff. So you don't have office and other administrative expenses at 8 different parishes. You'll only have that now at 3 parishes. Or if the very first scenario was considered, where all 8 parishes then merge into one, then you only have one set of administrative expenses. So that would be that would be the savings. And then of course, if some of the church buildings themselves were not being used, then they could be sold. You wouldn't have the utility expenses and the maintenance expenses to keep up those buildings and grounds. And then if they were sold, as Jen mentioned, the sales of those proceeds would also improve the financial condition of the new parish.
There was a question about how many people
It's not a ton more than us. Do you know, Janice?
Question is, how many students are at St. Agnes in Chicago Heights?
Okay, Mrs. Summer, I think it's around 180. Yeah. Is the Archdiocese predicting that people might leave after churches are combined. I think that's the case every time that this happens. Father Mark might have something to say.
Yeah, usually they know, the Archdiocese knows that some people don't go where they are told to go, to the parishes where they should be going. And sometimes they leave the church itself. They just leave the Catholic faith. Many have left the Catholic faith because of the closing. So that does not, of course, stop us from trying to make the church vibrant in spite of the situation. People will decide where to go and what to do, but we try all the same, we try. Yes, the Archdiocese is aware that people might leave, yes, and might not go where they are supposed to go, but we have to try something. Yes.
So there's a question about how would the ministries work, like a women's club, men's club, giving tree. Would they be just at the overall parish level, or would it be allowed at each church site? Father Mark,
Yeah, so
you answer that one.
Yeah, so if the church remain with the worship sites, the ministries can remain at that worship site. Some ministries will remain at that worship site. But if they combine into one church and all the rest of the churches are sold, then the other ministries, the women ministries, the men's ministries, they are absorbed by the church that has been consolidated. So otherwise, the ministries they come to be one church. It becomes to be one church. Each talent is used. Each talent of that parish, the coming members, they are all used. No talent is left out as long as they are working. So as long as they accept to work with us.
We're going to share. We have had some feedback already by some parishioners. So Jen is going to share some of that feedback with you, so you have an idea of what we're collecting already, and what we will be. Some of which will be brought to our bigger discernment meeting on Monday.
Okay, I had a comment here about the timing. The fact that we've been accelerated because we were not supposed to undergo this process until next year. And the fact that many people have not returned to church yet. So how are we reaching everybody with the message about this? So as you can see, this is the first chance that we've had to be able to get together with you guys. And we realize that we can't do a great big town hall meeting where we gather everybody together all at one time because of the COVID restrictions. So we're trying our hardest to be able to offer as many opportunities as possible to get the word to people, but to keep it still at a manageable level. I want to ask you guys, because we have been trying all through these months to reach as many people as possible. And, you know, I can say that because I work here in the office with the phone calls and the mailings and emailing bulletins on the weekends and the electronic donations and anything that we can to make it easy on people. But we know that there are so many people out there who we have not reached, who don't have email or don't check their email, or you know, don't answer a phone when they don't recognize a number. So I wanted to ask all of you out there to keep talking about this to everybody that you know, to all of your friends and your family and your school families and the people that you know and love from St. Anne Parish, just to make sure that they know. If you do know someone who is limited in their ability to get out or their ability to communicate, they're afraid to come back to church, explain to them what you can. If you know someone who has specific questions, I'm willing to talk to people. Any one of us on this committee, I think, would be willing to have a conversation with someone on the phone. I spoke with a parishioner, an old friend, last week for 2 hours just about this and everything else, because she had some concerns and some it's a lot. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of big words. There's a lot out there. So I just want to get that across based on what someone had said here, because they said in this comment, how is this information going to reach our parishioners? And when they do start coming back to church, are they going to feel like they were blindsided? We don't want anybody to be blindsided. We are trying to get it to everybody. So yeah, if anybody, thank you, Lena. If anybody else has any other ideas for how we can do this, or if you know somebody in particular who is just, you know, not in contact and feeling like they're out of the loop, please let us know.
There's a question from Diane.
Other than geographic locations and the combined numbers in the mailings, are things like school enrollment, church mass capacity, etc., being shared with us? Well, they are now. So we have this recording. We do have, we're going to be able to send out the slides that you saw. We're going to be saving that, excuse me, as a PDF that we will link out. We do have a couple other. Are we able to share? We are able to share these, right?
Sure.
Church seating capacity is one thing that I don't think that we've brought up. That was not really a factor in anything that we spoke about tonight. Actually, it is a factor, and we did mention the fact that poor little St. Paul down there can only seat 300 of their 2,100 weekend parishioners at a time. I don't know. Did you want to say something about that?
Tell Diane to unmute herself to ask.
Mrs. Herrera, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking your question so we make sure we cover it? Here she comes.
And I'm on my little bitty phone.
It's all right.
The
We can hear
question
you.
that you just read? The question that you just read?
Yeah.
So I was curious about other factors other than what's on these letters, right? So I like to have as much information as possible when I make a decision. So one of the things I was wondering is, how old are the churches? How many people do they hold? What about the schools? Same information. How many students are currently enrolled? How many can they hold? Like those kind of things I think are important for a decision of this magnitude. And it's one thing for us to, you know, to listen to these calls or to hear this information in church and try to make that decision. But there's still a lot of people that we're not reaching. So if we can put it together somehow before people make the decision, although I know we only have a week left. But, I think all those are important factors when we make these kind of considerations.
So, Diane, we can share, we do have church seating capacity projections that we can share. So if anybody is interested in more statistics, if you got your writing utensil and a piece of paper handy, I'm going to read you some, I'll read you the seating capacity at each church. So we'll start with St. Anne's. Our capacity is estimated at 1,000.
That's a little generous.
St. James in Sauk Village also at 1,000. St. John's in Glenwood at 500. St. Kieran in Chicago Heights at 750. St. Agnes in Chicago Heights at 450. St. Paul in the Heights at 300. St. Irenaeus in Park Forest, capacity of 800. And St. Lawrence O'Toole in Matheson at 600. And I guess I would add, I know one of the other things that was brought up in the last grouping and discernment team meeting with all the other parishes, and this might go to answer, Diane, some of your question, of what other things are being considered. You know, there's kind of a 10-year look ahead question being asked, and you know, what are the demographics? Do we see a large Catholic presence in some of these areas moving forward? And so that is being considered. Those are questions that are being asked, and I would say those are probably more archdiocesan questions that they're considering. There hasn't been a lot of discussion in the group about those, but I think I think that certainly is, it is being considered, and not just for what the mass attendance is like now, but are the demographics in an area, you know, if there's a large growing Hispanic population, we certainly can count on many of those folks being Catholic from a traditional standpoint. Then I think those parishes have, or that area has a greater outlook 10 years down the road. You know, conversely, there are some areas where it doesn't look like the Catholic population will bounce back. So those are some of the other factors being considered.
Can I also give some light?
Do all the churches have schools?
There's only 2 schools in the grouping, Diane. It's St. Agnes in Chicago Heights, which I think we said has 180 students, and then St. Anne's here in Lansing with 127. Those are the only 2 schools in the 8 parishes.
Thank you.
So in this process is kind of a 2-step process. So what they're asking, what they're trying to determine first is to what parishes will be consolidated together, what grouping you will be in. So the first thing they want to decide is if it's going to be St. Anne, St. John, St. James, or St. Anne and St. John's, or how that combination is going to go. Then once that decision is made, then you start going into the process of selecting which church will be the worship site. And that has a lot of other factors that are combined to it. So what they're trying to do now is just trying to determine what parishes are going to be combined together. And then the second step is which one will become the parish, which one will remain a church. So it's kind of a 2-step process. So as we get the information, we give that information to the parishes as best we can. And we ask that you help us share that information.
So the scenarios were created mainly because of the relationships these churches have with each other. So they looked at the relationships between, for example, St. John and St. Anne and St. James. They have a relationship because they do have children of confirmation together sometimes. They have their religious education together sometimes. So they have been together for a long time. That's why they created this that relationship kind of scenario and say, oh, maybe these people can work together because they have known each other for a while. Then so that is one of the reasons. So instead of putting one church with the other one, which they possibly people don't know each other, of course we can learn to live with each other without knowing each other. But this was the initial understanding that maybe if these churches know each other, people know each other, maybe they can work together. So that's one of the reasons why such scenarios were created in the first place.
Okay, so we had a question just to make sure, when is this process supposed to be completed? This is happening now. Completed by next July, by next fiscal, we'll be done. This should be, we're gonna know, I think it was right after the first of the year, and then we start working on the transition. You know, and I saw, my father belongs to Our Lady of Knock in Cal City, so I saw what they did. They started alternating having masses different weekends at different churches, so you could start to get to know the people in the sites where they were going to be happening. That process will happen next spring, but yeah, we'll be done with this by the end of this fiscal year, which ends June 30th.
So this was accelerated, and we started, like Jenny said, it is unusual. So we will complete this group of Renew My Church. We'll conclude their discussions possibly by the end of November. And then the Cardinal will make a decision in January or February. But then the priests and all the others can start moving, as Jen said, in July 1st. But otherwise, the decisions, we will know exactly what has happened by January or February. We will know which church we are going to be working with by the end of the year. So that is how it is because of the acceleration of COVID.
Amir, can you go ahead and take yourself off mute and ask your question, honey?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, I guess like my main concern about this is like from my understanding of like what I read on like the Renew My Church website and then like the information that was provided through the emails in this meeting is like I feel like the big thing with Renew My Church right now is like getting parishes like combined, right? And like which grouping are we going to do? And like that's good and all, but like we saw, like you shared like in the beginning, St. Anne has been losing numbers for like quite some time, and I'm assuming other parishes are like the same thing is happening, right? And I guess my concern is like based off of what has been happening over the past, like 20 years, like we're gonna combine, but at the same time, like that doesn't mean that people aren't gonna stop believing. So like based off of what has been happening, so like I guess my main concern is like if there was a way that you guys can ask the archdiocese, like they're using like the term evangelization and all these things, but like how is combining churches just evangelization? Like that's not like, I guess that's just my main concern is like where is like the reform, like where is the transformation going to happen for like the people of God? Like at the end of the day, this is like God's church, and it's not just about like combining like parishes, like it's about reaching out to the community. And like I guess like I'm seeing a lack of that with like the archdiocese plan, and to me it's more of just, okay, we're going to combine churches to combine finances and people to reach like the benchmarks that that were set forth. That was a lot, but like I guess it's just like my main concern.
Yeah, thank you, Emia. That is a very question that the priests are asking also with about the combination of these churches, combining of churches. Every priest is asking about that. But there is a program called Alpha. It's one of those programs for evangelizing, which they are doing after they they combine or they consolidate the churches. Then they come in and they start doing evangelization, hoping that in 5 to 10 years, maybe people will not continue to live. But otherwise, this combining of churches does not, of course, address the people living the faith or the church, no. But there is a program in place that they are trying to work on, but it is only after we combine. Unfortunately, that is how it is going to be. After we combine with other churches, they have already started in some churches, like in South Holland. They already started that program to implement it. It is our hope and the prayer that it will keep the people from going. Just we pray, but I don't know whether it is a solution. But thank you. That's a very good question, actually. Everyone is asking, is combining the solution? No, I don't think it is the solution, but it is a start, possibly.
Okay, can I like quickly respond to that? It's like, I guess like if you guys were like able to give suggestions to the archdiocese, like my suggestion would be like start Alpha now, like in like everywhere that you can, because like I feel like the longer you wait to start the actual evangelization, and like I understand with like COVID that's like hard to do, but like at least trying to do Alpha, because like I've heard of Alpha before, and like maybe trying to do that with St. Anne over Zoom or something like that, because like I feel like being like, oh, we're gonna combine churches and then we'll focus on the people, like that doesn't make sense to me. Like I feel like Alpha should be like something that should be started now while like the actual combining of their churches is happening.
Yeah, that is true. Again, Emia, that exactly what you say is what many people have been saying. Even those churches in the north that have closed already, they wondered why we didn't start with each parish individually instead of first combining. But again, the excuse that was given was that the priests then were very few, so they wanted first to make it a bigger group maybe or something, I don't know. But that the solution is actually to start that program earlier, the evangelization program earlier than starting after the fact of closing. But unfortunately, that is the archdiocese have done it backwards in a way. So start closing first or combining first and then preaching or evangelizing in a way. So, but that is what it is. But the cardinal decided, it has been done now 3-4 years now. It has been going on. So I don't know, those who did it earlier are much better than they were, but that is what it is. So yeah, but thank you for asking. And we will of course continue to talk about it.
So there's 2 other questions here. Has there been a breakdown based on each scenario? How many people will lose their jobs? And there hasn't been any discussion about who's losing a job, or we're just talking about consolidation at this point. And the second question is, will we still have to do the Cardinal Catholic appeal if we are combining parishes? So I'm sure that we're still doing the appeal, but again, we had discussed the assets, so whatever assets are combined from each parish will go to the new parish, and any debt will be offset by any kind of property sales, or we're not bringing debt to the new parish, we're only bringing the assets to the parish.
Yes, the programs will continue. That is true, Lena, it is true. The programs will have to continue, like to teach who Christ is for those who have not done it. Annual Catholic appeal, it will continue until we are all consolidated, until we are one church or of some sort. Otherwise, we'll continue the ministries as if nothing is happening so far to address, then we can see how it goes. Because these needs are still needed, like the annual Catholic appeal, it helps people who are, of course, in need, and they will continue to be in need in spite of our consolidation. So the ministries, those programs will continue. Thank you.
I see a question here about, is there a way that we can suggest to the archdiocese that they should have town hall meetings like this? I think that's what the group discernment and feedback teams are about. I don't think probably because of COVID concerns that there could be one big town hall meeting. So I don't even know if the other parishes in our grouping are having town halls like this, but we're trying to do everything we can to get the word out. It would make sense, but I don't know that the archdiocese has the staff to pull off a large town hall meeting, and I don't know that you could do it because of COVID right now anyway.
Hey Dan, it's Gina. I have a question. And it might be premature because I know we're just starting the process, but based on just the numbers right now, because I think that's all we have, which scenario best describes our situation right now? I mean, like, what, ideally based on the numbers, like in your opinion, or would be what we're gearing towards?
I think most of us on the discernment team, I think we sort of favored scenario 5 or 6, which has us paired with St. James and St. John. It seems like, St. John, I know there's people from Lansing that have gone to St. John for years and still do. And St. James is sort of in that geographical north-south line with us. So those seem to be the groupings that I guess that we, in a breakout meeting virtually a couple weeks ago when they just had the 6 of us together, we seem to like scenarios 5 and 6. And so Lena is sharing scenario 6. And so there you see we're paired with St. James and St. John. The numbers are good in terms of attendance and finances. That scenario has Agnes and Kieran together, and those numbers are low financially. So if we go back to scenario 5, you see that, again, it doesn't change for us. We're paired with James and John, and then you see the three, the three Chicago Heights parishes are together, but then that leaves Irenaeus and O'Toole really thin in terms of they'd be below 800 in the weekend masses, and they'd be just barely cutting the mustard in terms of revenues. But for our sake, I think we liked 5 and 6. Jen?
I just want to interject too, when they've asked us to propose additional scenarios, yeah, would you do that? That'd be great. She's gonna go back to the first slide so we can just see all 8 of us out there. They gave us the option of all 8 being one parish or breaking us into 3 parishes. So my question was, where's the 4-4? Where's the 50-50 split? And when we looked at the numbers, I don't have them written down, so I can't, but you guys could figure it out if you wanted. Putting us, James, John, and Ann with St. Kieran, which you can see is just due west of St. John. It's very close to us. And then having the other 4 together, the 2 remaining Chicago Heights parishes with Park Forest and Madison, made sense to me. It was better numbers. I would think that, taking 4 parishes down to 1, keeping 2 worship sites open at each of those, we would have a school in the north half, we would have a school in the south half, we would have a gym in the north half and a gym in the south half, because there's 1 school in each of those that have that. And I kind of like that idea. There was someone from St. Agnes who actually did propose something like this. It was still 3 parishes though. I don't remember how they were broken out. St. Paul really needs to be with somebody because they need the space and they need the dollars. The 2 parishes out to the west in Madison and Park Forest, when I look at them, they've got a lot of space and not a whole lot of bodies in there. So I think that could be accommodated. And these are the kinds of things that we could use your feedback on. If somebody, they basically told us, these are talking conversation starters. You guys come up with a better scenario that everybody can agree on that can be presented to the cardinal. It's happened before that that a parish configuration that was not proposed by the archdiocese, but rather came from the grouping, was the one that they went with because it made sense. We know the area, we know the people. We might be better equipped than somebody just coming in and looking at the numbers. So I hope that helps.
And can I respond to that?
Oh, and Lena just brought up a point too, that they did ask us to consider where these communities will be in 10 years. If you look at the demographics, will there be a sustainable Catholic presence in all of these communities, or which one would be most likely to have that sustainable Catholic presence? Getting late, I'm losing my words.
Preferable presence.
Yes.
Mrs. Gray, can I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay, so about when you said like the 4 and 4, like that was the thing that I thought, like from my understanding, St. Kieran and St. Agnes for years have been like working together. Like I know their pastor.
They do share a pastor right now.
Right. So like, and then another thing, it's like, I think we're gonna have to like consider too, like language. Like I was looking on St. Paul's website, they have 7 masses, 5 out of the 7 are in Spanish. So I feel like it's very important, and look, because I think St. Agnes has a decent like attendance of like Latinx. I'm not entirely sure, but like I feel like that's going to be another like important thing is like how is language, like how is like which language of the mass going to like impact like the decision that we made, or like that you guys put forward to the cardinal.
No, it's Amir. That is to me that's as obvious as the day is long. That the archdiocese has to address the language issue out here. When just before Father Mark came and the vicar came to St. Anne and asked us what we thought we should have in a new pastor. I was there that night, and this was obviously a couple of years ago, and I said, you need to start thinking, whether it's in a pastor or an associate priest, you need to send us somebody who speaks Spanish, because that's the growing population out here, and that's the answer when they want to look at what sort of sustainable Catholic presence is going to be here in 10 years. It's going to be if you have more Spanish-speaking Catholics, and they're here. but I don't think the Archdiocese is doing enough to embrace it. Our parish would have better numbers if we had Spanish masses right now. So I think your point is right on. I know it's been shared with the Archdiocese. I'll make sure that it's one of the things that we harp on Monday night when we get on the call, and we'll have that opportunity to do so. So it's you're hitting the nail on the head there.
I just pulled up some information that we have on demographics. So on the racial and ethnic composition in the total area, so just to give you an idea. So if we're looking at Black alone, the total grouping area is 50%. St. Anne's is at 36%. White alone is at 38% for the total grouping area, and St. Anne's is at 54%. Hispanic is at 17% for the entire grouping area, and we're at 15%. So this is the number from the dashboard that we have. So
Because he said they don't live there. The people going to church.
yes.
Is
So
that
at St.
demographic-
Paul's, just to kind of give you an idea, is that they have 20 different zip codes in their parish. So yes, we do have a Hispanic presence here, but they're going to Our Lady of Guadalupe, they're going back, well, not St. Victor anymore, but that parish grouping that was made, they're going to St. Paul. So you're absolutely right, and we have to look at what our parish is going to look like in the next 10 years and how is that going to be shaped.
Wait, those demographics that you gave, is that like of the parishes, or is that of like the actual towns?
It's called the St. Anne Territory. So whatever boundaries the Archdiocese has made for what St. Anne, the territory of St. Anne. So it's probably primarily Lansing.
So that's not like who is coming to the church.
No, that's just what the according to the census.
Does Renew My Church like look in, or like have there been demographics of each parish of like which would be like which people would attend an English speaking mass versus a Spanish speaking mass, or no?
No, they have not done it, but if we started the Spanish Mass today, you would see big numbers coming, because most, like someone just mentioned, there are some who live here in the area who go to Calumet area. There are some who go to, they are here, they are there. And there are some who speak English, but they want it in Spanish. They want Mass in Spanish. So in a way, they have not made, to answer the question, they have not made how many people are going to church who are Hispanics, for example, at St. Anne, but they have made it, they have made that census within the town, the city of Lansing, the town of Lansing, how many families speak Spanish. So they get that 15%, and they say these people would go to St. Anne, but they are not able to go to St. Anne, or they are going there but in English, but they would have loved the Spanish Mass there.
Amir, why don't you give me a call and I could go over the numbers, the data that I do have, so we could do a Zoom meeting and I could share with you the information that I have. I could talk to you when I'm done with that.
Okay, thanks.
You muted yourself. I didn't hear you.
I just said thanks. Sorry.
Just do that one last question. Val DeMay asked, who proposed the 6 scenarios? Those were given to us by the Archdiocese. And can other ideas be proposed, written on our surveys if we think it's a good solution? You guys can come up with any scenario you want to. If you think that St. Paul should be grouped with St. Anne because those people don't live where St. Paul is and we can rope them over to St. Anne, propose that. It's a long shot, but propose that. You know what I mean? Anything that you think makes sense, makes better sense, just give us some reasons. This is all material that we can bring back to them on Monday.
So I think we're going to try to wrap this up. We've been on it for almost an hour and a half. If you have feedback, please go to the link. Jen will share that with you here in just a minute, or you can come to Mass this weekend. We're going to have these town halls in person after each of the Masses this weekend. Or you could turn in your survey in person, I think in the narthex, or here at the parish office. Jen will give you the link right now.
If you want to do this electronically, it is available on both websites, the school and the parish website, and also on the Facebook page in the post that I put up this morning regarding the meeting, but I will tell it to you right now too. It is http://bit, that's bit.ly/RMC feedback. So that stands for Renew My Church Feedback. And it's a Google form that you can fill out. We also have a paper version that you should have received in the mail. You could have gotten it by handout. It's also available to be printed off the website, any way that you want to do it. If you just want to write us a letter, we will take your feedback.
Oh, there you go. You did it.
Thank you, Amir.
I was just gonna do it.
That is it.
All right. Okay, we're going to ask Judy if she would come back and close us out the right way in prayer, and then we'll say goodnight to everyone.
Thank you, Jesus, for our time together tonight. We ask for your blessings during this time of discernment. Give us the wisdom to know your will and the courage and strength to accept your will with generosity and open spirits. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Judy, and thanks to everybody for being on with us tonight. Thanks for giving up some of your Thursday night. We look forward to your feedback, and please join us in church this weekend if you'd like to get some more of us. Thanks, and have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.